I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb and I'm going to make an assumption about every single parent in this room. I don't reckon there's a parent in this room or on the planet that wakes up in the morning and thinks, you know what I'd like to do today? In fact, you know what I'm going to put as number one on my to-do list because it would just feel so good? I would like to absolutely lose it at my kids. Screaming, shouting, that's the plan. The worst moment in my parenting happened on an unbelievably hot day back in November 2011. I had a 3-month-old baby that seemed to cry all the time. Turned out he had reflux. I also had a 2-year-old that I was quietly worried was on a fast path to a life behind bars. Turned out he was just a 2-year-old. And on this particular day, I was exhausted. I was hot, the baby had been crying and feeding all morning, and I was desperate for a break. Finally, at 11:30 a.m., the baby fell asleep in my arms. I turned to my 2-year-old and I said, Mummy's just going to put the baby in bed. Wait here for 2 minutes, okay? My son said, okay. I managed to successfully transfer my baby into his cot. I turned around to put on the white noise machine, and suddenly, as if he manifested out of the floor from nowhere, there is my 2-year-old, looking at me directly in the eyes as he shakes the bassinet and screams at the top of his lungs, "Rah!" I would love to tell you exactly how I reacted in that moment, but I actually can't remember it because my response felt like an out-of-body experience. I know the neighbours probably would have heard me screaming from 5 houses down. But what I remember was the experience in my body. My heart rate accelerated, my breathing got shallow, my thinking clouded. The blood moved from my internal organs to my extremities. I went into fight, flight, or freeze. So I had the same physical reaction as if there was an actual threat to my life, like as if I was being chased by a bear, not just having a tricky morning with a 2-year-old. Working with thousands of millennial parents as a parent educator, I now know my experience, it's not unique. Millennial parents are cut different. They know more about the parent they want to be and about what kids need than any previous generation. And yet it's in the moments where their kids show big feelings or tricky behaviours that it seems to unravel. They have that same physical experience. Their heart rates race, their thinking clouds, they lose control of their reactivity, like they're being chased by a bear. And it starts from the minute we have our first baby. One of the things babies do in the first week of life is they start to cry. It's called cluster feeding, and they start to cry at about 11 p.m. and they don't stop until 5 a.m. And nothing we do will stop it or fix it or solve it. And this is when parents will start to panic. Their heart rates accelerate, their thinking clouds, and they start to think, what do you want? Why won't you stop crying? Why am I not as good at this as I thought I would be? Or maybe I got a bad baby. And then they're in the kitchen, next thing they know, with a 2-year-old who's melting down because you have handed them the wrong coloured cup. Or 2 older kids that will not stop fighting. Or a teenager. One day you walk into their room, you say, good morning, and their eyes roll so far back in their head, you think they're never coming back to the front again. And while we know all these moments are normal, we know that babies will cry, that toddlers will melt down, that siblings will fight, and teenagers will roll their eyes. In the moment, we lose the ability to be the parent we want to be. In the moment, our heart rate accelerates, our thinking clouds, we go into fight, flight, or freeze, and we feel like we're being chased by a bear. Meta emotion can explain what's going on here. Meta emotion is how you feel about feelings, and you might be really surprised to find out that how you feel about each feeling gets set in the first 5 years. In fact, by just 11 months of age as a baby, you had already learnt which emotions your parents felt comfortable with and less comfortable with. And more significantly, you had started to show less of the emotions that made your parents uncomfortable. By 5 years of age, through thousands of moments with our primary caregivers or with our parents, we've learned which ones make them feel okay and which ones don't. And particularly if you were told to go to your room, we don't carry on like that. Or settle down, mate, too much. Or my personal favourite, if you don't stop behaving like that, you will be in serious trouble. Or maybe if you don't stop frowning, the wind might change and you could get stuck like that. Through all of these moments, we learn which ones make our parents feel okay and not okay. And here's the thing. We are a social species. We are wired for connection. If something makes our parents feel uncomfortable, it puts a gap between us. And anything that puts a gap between us and our primary caregivers, well, we will do anything to close that gap. So we push it down, we don't show it, and then we grow up. And then we're in the kitchen with our own kid and they're melting down and we don't know why we're losing it, but our body knows. The really cool thing about this is that if just by knowing that meta emotion is a thing, just by knowing that how you feel about feelings is playing a role in all of these interactions, you now have a chance to do something about it. And the way we do this is by first grabbing a pause. If we can pause just 1 to 2 seconds, it is long enough to stop the build into reactivity. We then need to offer ourselves some kindness. You might say, this is really hard for me, or I'm a good parent, I'm doing the best that I can. Just by pausing and then offering yourself some kindness, you stop the climb into fight, flight, or freeze. You stop your body from feeling like it's being chased by a bear, and now you have a choice. Do I go with my automatic programming, or do I meet the needs of the kid in front of me? I would like to tell you this is really easy to do. You're all now experts, class dismissed, and that I'm an expert too. Unfortunately, neither of those things is true. 5 years after that fateful day with the cot and the toddler and the newborn, I was in the kitchen with another toddler and another newborn. I was cooking dinner. I was 10 days postpartum, and my 2-year-old came into the kitchen and he asked for a banana. I said, yeah, sure. In the process of peeling that banana for my 2-year-old, I did what you should never, ever do to a 2-year-old. I broke it in half. He now didn't want that banana. That banana was broken. And I wasn't really wanting a meltdown. So I did anything I could to fix it or solve it or stop it. I said, hey, I'll chop it up. I'll put it in a bowl. He screamed, new banana. I tried logic. Look in the fruit bowl. I don't have any bananas. I have apples. He wailed, banana broken, new banana. I started to get desperate. I opened our pantry and I said, anything you want, just take it. He's on the floor, he is kicking, he is screaming. And inside me, I felt that familiar feeling of rage building. My heart rate was racing, my thinking was clouding, and I wanted to scream, go to your room. But I grabbed a pause, just long enough to stop myself. I offered myself a little bit of compassion. I was like, this is hard, yeah? And then I said 3 things to my son. Your banana broke. You really didn't want it to break. And you were very, very sad about this. Within 6 seconds, my son's head was leaning against my shoulder. Within 7 seconds, he was eating that bloody banana. And I sat there thinking, my gosh, this stuff is hard to do. As a parent educator, as a mum who's practiced a lot, it's really hard to do this stuff. if it wasn't necessarily modeled for you. I also thought, my gosh, this stuff works. I spent about 7 minutes trying to convince my son out of his feelings. And in just, one statement, letting him know I got it, he felt seen, he felt heard, and we both felt better. But the third realization I had was later that night as I put him into his cot because he was 2. And I realized it was not about the banana. I had had a baby 10 days ago. I'd been in hospital for 5 days. The baby was struggling to feed, and his world had turned on its axis. And that meltdown was really about the fact that it was the last straw, the tip of the iceberg. This number is the most important thing that I'm going to say today. Because if we can meet the emotional needs of our kids in the moment to feel seen and heard just 30% of the time, evidence shows that's enough to do something incredible. That's enough to turn out a child that doesn't just feel comfortable with the emotions and the feelings we feel comfortable with, but with all of them. Because I have this huge goal for my 4 boys. I have a goal that one day, one of them is going to be in the kitchen and their toddler is going to melt down because they cut their toast wrong, or they broke their banana, or handed them the wrong coloured cup. And my child will find that meltdown loud and probably very annoying and likely quite inconvenient. But they will not feel like they're being chased by a bear. Thank you.